Let's start answering questions. The first one I remember is from Okaboka, and they wanted to know what kind of bodyweight training is best for building strength and size. And this was a really good question because it triggers me to want to start a video or make a video on exercises that for me built the most size and the most bulk whilst building strength. So I'm going to work on that, but exercises that come to mind just right now off the top of my head that really grew specifically my back, my biceps, and my chest and my shoulders were handstand push-ups, rope climbs, weighted pull-ups, and weighted dips. So you can do just pull-ups, chin-ups, and dips, but if they get easy where you're outside of that realm of it being strength training, that higher intensity, lower rep range, if you're not finding it challenging within that, you would add weights. So all those exercises worked really well for me I wasn't aiming for size, but blew me up. So I'll make a video on exercises like that, and coming soon. Tom Merrick. Sounds really similar to Tom Merrick, but it's not. The Bodyweight Warrior, shout out. Tom Merrick says, what is your opinion on the most important exercise to achieve planche? I've been through this many a time, but I'll say it again. I don't think it can really be said enough. Is the best exercise for planche, and I think you could get planche only doing this exercise, is the planche negative. Now what that is, if you need an explanation, is a handstand and lowering down through whatever planche position you're going for, lowering down through that position. So say my goal was a straddle planche, the exercise would be go up into handstand, straddle my legs, and then lower down through that position. I would do 1 rep for 5 sets, 3 times a week, and you'll see insane progress. Now, if your goal is a straddle planche and you're not strong enough to lower down through a straddle, that's fine. That makes sense. That's where I was for a bit. You would just do the easier variation. So you would start by doing handstand into a tuck position and then lowering down through a tuck planche. Now, the caveat to this is that you need an additional skill. You need to be able to handstand to pull this off. To get the most out of this exercise, you need to know how to handstand. Flat out, that's just how it is. So I feel like that would put some people off, but you mustn't. You mustn't let that put you off. It is so beneficial, this exercise, and it's a handstand. If you're into bodyweight training, that should be on your list no matter what, to get that handstand. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is because during the first Stronger series, which you can see on YouTube, on my YouTube page, it started out with wanting to do that exercise, but I couldn't even do the exercise. I needed to learn how to handstand, go into a tuck planche, and lower through it. Many sets were just done losing that balance, but I stuck with it, didn't give up. I kept trying, and I think it was in the 3rd week, I wasn't falling through it anymore. I caught it, and something just kind of clicked the day that I caught it. And from there, yeah, there were still dodgy reps, dodgy sets, but from there, I started to get the gains from being able to slowly and controlled lower through the appropriate positions. And I got straddle planche within 6 weeks using that method alone. Zen Lifestyle and Manners Show. How to start Olympic lifting without access to a coach. What are some good squat prerequisites? So 2-pronged question. Here's how I would start Olympic lifting if you don't have access to a coach. Clearly you have internet, so I would look up articles, written tutorials, and YouTube tutorials on how to Olympic lift. I would go to the gym, taking that information I got online, execute the lifts with a program as best I can, film it, watch it back, get visual feedback on what you're doing good and what you're doing bad, contrasting, comparing that to what you saw online, and fixing it from there, making adjustments. That's how you would learn on your own. You've got access to internet, so use it to find out the right technique. And when you go to the gym, film yourself and get feedback. If you want to take it a step further than that, you don't have access to a coach, so you clearly don't have a gym in your area where they're teaching Olympic lifting. So what I would do is save some money and go to a seminar or go to a gym in another town, in another city, somewhere far away. Take the time, make the effort, take the trip to go and see someone, learn from them, and then bring that knowledge back here, back to your home. So you don't need a coach in your town, but you can make that investment and go outside and bring that knowledge back to you. You'll get that person-to-person interaction that you can't get online. Another option is online coaching. So I'd actually shuffle it a bit. I would go my first bit of advice by just looking online. Then you could consider getting an online coach to give you feedback. And then the third one can be going away, going out of town, either to a seminar, a workshop, or getting an accreditation to be a qualified Olympic lifting coach or to learn Olympic lifting and bring that knowledge back to where you are. So those are three excellent options that you can consider if you don't have a coach in your community. And a great squat prerequisite, there's a few things you can do. You can actually put some weight on the bar, or just get the bar, put it on your back and squat down. That weight actually, it doesn't make you more mobile, but because there's weight on you, it forces you into a position that you otherwise might not have been able to do without any weight on your back. So that's not to say load up the bar, that's just to say to put a little bit of weight on. So it kind of forces you into a position, and you want to just squat down with the bar on your back and chill out for about 60 seconds. Well, not chill out as in let your muscles go loose, but stay down there for 60 seconds. This is getting your body, your ankles, used to being down in that position. And if you do that at the start of your training sessions or at the end of your training sessions, the squat position will start to feel more natural and it will start to feel more comfortable for you. Another option, you could say Olympic lifting shoes, because they have that raised heel, which lets you sit into the squat position better, because it makes your body not require as much ankle flexibility because it raises the heel. But shoes can be expensive. And if you just want that greater mobility in the squat position, grab some weight plates, the 2.5 kilo ones, and put them under your heel when you squat. And that should make it feel a lot more comfortable going into the squat, going down, and it mimics what the Olympic weightlifting shoe does for you. And to plug someone else's routine, Ido Portal's squat routine 2.0 is a great one to do before your squat session. It's several exercises that loosen up the hip area, everything that needs to kind of be mobile when you're in that deep squat position. Doing that before every session will pay dividends in the weeks to come from there. So those are three things to consider, or I don't know if you would even call them prerequisites, but you certainly should be able to do all those three things before you can squat. It would just kind of go hand in hand. but I've kind of more, if you're asking for prerequisites for a squat, I'm assuming that the squat is a difficult position to be in. So I've given you some things to do that'll make you feel more comfortable in that position and gently introduce your body to the position and make it more comfortable. How to combine weights and calisthenics. I know that you don't have experience with powerlifting, but in general, how did you manage to do weightlifting and bodyweight stuff together? When I started weights, my legs got bigger and I gained 5 kilos quickly. And now it's hard to do pull-ups and dips. What would you suggest? So that's probably the most asked question I get, coming from that mixed background with bodyweight training and Olympic lifting being my highest promoted movements on my YouTube channel. People want to know how I combined it together to make it work. So I do have a video on this, but it's quite old, so I should consider doing an update. But it basically says that if you train them together consistently with goals, then you'll see progress as long as it's all realistic. To get more specific, I would ideally train weightlifting and bodyweight training separately. I wouldn't like to train it at the same time. But if I ever had to train my bodyweight and weightlifting in the same session or on the same day, which happened a lot more, that was a lot more common, I would aim to do my bodyweight training first, my weightlifting first, and my bodyweight training second. So the reason I wanted to do my weightlifting first was because if I was to do a bodyweight session, which is, bodyweight strength training is awesome for general upper body strength, but there can be certain movements, complex movements, and also isolated movements, which A, fatigue your central nervous system, and B, can fatigue specific muscle groups or tendons or joints, specific areas of your body. And I would much rather, if you had to choose, so the idea was never to kill yourself in these sessions, because it's not bodybuilding where you're just going till failure. But I would rather go into a bodyweight training session with some slight fatigue than go into my weightlifting training with some slight fatigue, because weightlifting is with an external weight. So I don't want to do a bunch of handstand push-ups, handstand holds, working mobility to open up the shoulders. Great session, but smashed it, and then go in and be snatching overhead with that external weight. So it's kind of splitting hairs, but I feel like that expression is a bit too exaggerated for this, because that is something to consider. But I got away with it this whole time. I managed to share them and make progress in both, but that was kind of just my outlook or perspective. That's how I approached it, was if I had to share it, it was always the weightlifting first and then the bodyweight training. And that wasn't to say weightlifting took priority, but it was to consider what both do to your body. And if you have to put one first, the safer, more effective option seemed to be the weights first. The best example I have of this working for me was going through the first Stronger series, which was all bodyweight training, going for a bunch of bodyweight strength skills, and at the same time working towards Olympic weightlifting nationals. So both disciplines had something very prestigious at the end, and I worked them both and did well at both because I split them in an appropriate way. And that was roughly 3 to 4 sessions a week for both. And when it fell on the same day, split between weights first, body weight second. And to address the point of this person putting on 5 kilos quickly and it hindering their progress in pull-ups and dips, I think it was, is to put on 5 kilos, like I'm not doubting that happened, but to put on 5 kilos and it affected how it did, I don't think you were training pull-ups as often as you thought you were. Because if there is weight gain, yes, of course it will affect your body weight training. But if you're being consistent with both, say, your weight training and your body weight training, or if you're just being consistent with your body weight training and you're putting on weight, it's not to say that you definitely won't feel it, but it shouldn't shock you. So it shouldn't be possible to put on weight so fast if you're training body weight consistently that it dramatically affects your pull-ups, for example. So you need to just go back and ask yourself, how consistently were you actually training pull-ups? And what were you doing that put on weight? Were you just putting on fat? Are you young and were you growing? Are you putting on muscle? Because the muscle one wouldn't add up in terms of gaining 5 kilos quickly. The growing would, if you're young, which you just need to endure. You grow. That's a good thing. You're getting bigger, your testosterone will increase, so you'll find it is easier to gain muscle mass. That's a good thing. If you're getting fat, you need to go back and consider that would tie in more to why it became difficult. If you put on 5 kilos quickly, gaining weight, and it was fat, and you would assume that your pull-ups weren't consistent along with that gain. So that's me answer. Seems like I'm having a dig. I'm not. I'm just trying to. You would need more information to properly kind of diagnose or give an assessment of that. But that's how I see it. That's how I'm looking at it, is that if you're being consistent with training, surely 5 kilos would be noticeable. You couldn't gain it that quick if you were consistent with body weight training that it would affect. So there must be something within that. You're either growing, so you're gaining an unreasonable amount of weight quickly because you're growing, you're going through puberty and becoming a man, or something's slacking, something you weren't eating right and you weren't training enough. Don't know what the answer is, only you can tell that, but that's how I'm trying to unpack what you said. That's my thought process behind it. A friend of mine recently purchased one of those harnesses for your head so you can lift weights with your neck. Have you ever used one of these, and what is your opinion on them? What are the benefits of doing this? So these neck things where you put the harness on and then you start lifting weight, I don't really have a problem with it, but I don't think it will, unless you have an injury or something, it's not doing anything new that you can't do with body weight, which if you look at my neck training video on YouTube, I will link it. You can train your neck efficiently and realistically just with body weight. As long as you are sensible with it, you're never challenging yourself when it comes to neck. It's always very controlled, no way of failure or fatigue. It's almost gentle. You're just letting your neck feel its range of motion, and that's it. It's conditioning for the neck. I think that if you do that and you do it right, there's nothing that neck harness can do that the skills I learned from my wrestling classes don't do. So no need to spend money if you can do it right. Do you do any outdoor activities like mountain biking or hiking? Well, usually I like to be wine and dined first before I answer stuff like this. No. So I've done those two things, but I don't actively do them all the time. But it's interesting you choose those two things, because I've wanted to get into mountain biking again since the last time I went in the Lake District in the United Kingdom. The UK, it was one of the funnest experiences of my life. It was so fun taking the mountain, going through the journey of riding up the hill, the arduous journey, and then the freedom of sailing back down. I loved. So I'm looking to do that again. Haven't lined anything up, but even where I am, where I'm living at the moment, there's opportunities to do that. So I just kind of need to put the time aside, make the effort and go and do it. But I loved it. I would go hiking again as well. Shout out to Max Lowry, who is doing that kind of thing. I might join him one day soon. But yeah, both enjoyable. I'm actively keeping an eye out for mountain biking opportunities, because it was one of the most thrilling things I ever did. Next question. It's the beginning of the year and it's time for everyone to attempt another fad diet. What advice can you give these people? So if you can't tell, I put up it's mid-February, so I put up these questions about a month ago. I mean, I like to think my audience is quite intelligent, but I do also put out videos that cater to the beginner, so I need to assume that there are a lot of beginners watching these videos as well. And the simple advice I have to say is, any diet, I mean, how do I simplify this? Any diet can work if we're talking weight loss, because no matter what, whether it's keto or veganism or paleo or Atkins diet, whatever diet it is, if you're consuming less calories than you're burning, you lose weight. If you consume more calories than you burn, you gain weight. And that's that. It doesn't matter what else you hear. Why do you think people that go on their water fast lose so much weight? Because they're not consuming anything. Absolutely no calories. Why do you think they lose that weight? And why do you think they lose it fast? Because the less calories you have, the more your body has to digest and use and burn what it's already got inside. And any diet is just a manipulation of that. If you're having less calories than you burn, you lose weight. Simple. The other thing to say about it is a diet is a diet. So the word diet already presumes it's in the context that was asked, already presumes this is an eating habit you're about to take on for a certain length of time, and then it will end. And I say, unless you've got unless competition is something you're doing where you need to achieve a certain aim for your body in terms of macro and micronutrient breakdown for whatever it is, say you're cutting weight for jiu-jitsu, or say you're trying to optimize your energy on the day of competition, yeah, there's certain things you would eat. But just speaking generally, I would lean more towards lifestyle eating habits than any particular diet that's receiving a lot of attention at the moment. Beliefs aside, what you choose to eat and what not, focus on having good eating habits as opposed to choosing a good diet to follow that other people have given great reviews. A good example is a competitive athlete that does really well in their chosen sport, and then you see them retire and they balloon up. And this is a great example of diet versus lifestyle. So that competitive athlete had a really strict diet, a great diet for optimizing their performance. but it was never something realistic that they could have carried into their everyday life. Too strict. So when they come out of that competition, because they don't have either the knowledge or the care to have adopted a healthy eating lifestyle, they end up ballooning up. They don't make the right choices. They eat way too much for what they're putting in too much into their body compared to what they're burning. So to me, that's a great example of diet versus lifestyle, and I lean way more towards having a good eating lifestyle as opposed to adopting any kind of diet. Would you be willing to offer individual workout advice to people online, perhaps on a weekly or monthly basis for a fee? Yeah, of course, Zach, definitely. As you asked the question, PM me, DM me, send me a message, and we'll work something out. And that goes for anyone else. Send me a message if you're interested in my coaching tactics, the skills that I possess, you would like me to pass on to you. I would love to do that. Just send me a message on my website, thetysonedwards.com, or contact me directly, thetysonedwards@gmail.com. And that brings us to our last question. Speaking from my own personal experience, I discovered you via your Fusion Gone Wrong videos being posted on Reddit. Thank you, Reddit. You obviously embrace comedy as a conduit for your fitness videos, which keeps them informative as well as entertaining. Who are your favorite comedians, television shows, or YouTube personalities? So, this is getting personal. Comedians that I like are, I've turned into a robot. Comedians I like are, I love Ricky Gervais. I love Dave Chappelle. Bo Burnham is awesome. I love his different take on the comedic performance. Jim Norton, I really like. I really like Jim Norton's just him as a person is really funny. So there's certain people that are great as stand-up comics. Their content is hilarious, but I find Jim Norton has good stand-up, but he's just he's a hilarious person to me. I love that kind of self-deprecating humor. His time's over now, but Billy Connolly told great stories, awesome accent, great sense of humor. Similar, I would aspire to have his kind of career where he has his knowledge and specialty and he takes that with him around the world and uses that as an opening to explore other cultures. I love that kind of thing. And an Australian one, Carl Barron. I don't know how many people not Australian would get his humour, but it's so funny to an Australian. Did I say Dave Chappelle? I think I did. TV shows, you've got Sopranos. I remember renting them from Blockbuster when I was younger to finish the series. 6 Feet Under, Deadwood. So devastated that did not finish properly. Boardwalk Empire, Game of Thrones. I love anime. I'm also a fan of anime. Death Note, Attack on Titan, Code Geass. My favorite, Hunter x Hunter, the 2011. Hands down my favorite anime. I loved watching that. 7 Deadly Sins on Netflix is awesome. Bucky the Grappler had its moments. There were things you had to endure. And I love the roided up version, that just Bucky, that's on Netflix at the moment. I binge watched that whole thing when I had food poisoning. And then YouTube personalities I found interesting. So not really. See, I thought about that and I thought I watch YouTube for information on topics. I think that's the main reason I watch YouTube. I think YouTube personalities, I find PewDiePie is a good personality. KSI, they're good personalities. You can see why so many people are drawn to them and subscribed to them. They're not people who I watch their videos often, but H3H3 Productions, Ethan Klein, all those three have very magnetic personalities that I could get on board with. So I don't watch all their videos, but their personalities kind of click with me. But channels that I watch, I love movies and TV shows. So I love, when I've finished it, to hear people talk about the bits that I liked to see. So there are 3 channels: Just Right, Storytellers, and The Take by Screen Prism. And all 3 of them analyze movies and shows, and it serves for me to understand the shows on a deeper level, to get nostalgic and to just relive the moments that I loved, and to possibly learn something new about them. And yeah, that's what I love about those channels. And if you guys enjoy or kind of recapping on shows that you've enjoyed in the past or movies that you've enjoyed, I highly recommend those 3 channels. And that's the first podcast done. Bit rough around the edges, I feel. I would ideally like to do it during the day when the sun's out and it just feels more warm. I'm more warm to you guys. But please let me know what you think. Subscribe if you enjoyed it. Like the video. Please share it if you got something out of it and you enjoy this type of content. And please include feedback. Let me know what I can do better, what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy so much, topics, questions, all of that good stuff. Thanks so much for continuing to support me and supporting this channel. I appreciate every single one of you guys that is there to watch, like, subscribe, just add a view to it and give some support to what I'm trying to do, and to promoting movement, to promoting skill acquisition, making our bodies better at doing things so that we can enjoy life. Thanks for watching. I'll see you for the next video. You'll hear me for the next podcast. Till then, I'll stop talking.